They thought it was just a stray dog, but he wasn't lost. He was trained to hunt, and tonight he remembered exactly who they were. On a quiet fall evening in Portland, Oregon, the sky hung low and gray, the kind that made the city feel slower, heavier. Emily Carter, a 34-year-old single mother, walked home from the grocery store with her 10-year-old daughter Lily, chatting about school projects and weekend plans. Their apartment sat near Maple Street, a peaceful neighborhood lined with old trees and creaky porches, safe, familiar, predictable. That's when Lily stopped walking. "Mom, look!" Near a broken streetlight, a large mixed-breed dog sat completely still. His fur was muddy, one ear slightly torn, and a faded red collar hung loosely around his neck with no tag. His eyes, dark and alert, watched every passing car, every moving shadow. Emily hesitated. Portland had strict rules about stray animals. Still, something about the dog felt different. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't scared either. He looked like he was waiting. Lily crouched slowly. "Hey, boy, are you lost?" The dog stood. For a moment, Emily's heart skipped. Then he gently wagged his tail once, just once. They called animal control. No answer. They waited 10 minutes. The dog didn't move. When Emily finally sighed and said, "Okay, just for tonight," the dog stood immediately, as if he'd been expecting those words. At home, the dog explored quietly. No barking, no mess. He stopped at the hallway mirror and stared at his reflection longer than normal. Emily noticed, but brushed it off. They named him Shadow because he followed Lily everywhere, silently, protectively. Over the next few weeks, Shadow became part of their routine. He waited outside Lily's school bus stop every morning. He slept near the front door at night. And oddly, he growled only once, always at the same direction, the back alley behind their apartment. Emily laughed it off, probably raccoons. But then things began to change. One afternoon, Emily returned home to find the front door slightly open. Nothing seemed stolen. Still, Shadow stood rigid, teeth bared, staring at the hallway closet. That night, Lily whispered from her bed, "Mom, Shadow won't sleep." Emily checked. Shadow sat upright, ears alert, eyes locked on the front door. Not barking, not moving, just waiting. At 2:17 a.m., a soft metallic click echoed through the apartment. Shadow stood, and for the first time since they found him, he growled deep and low, not in fear, but in recognition, as if he knew exactly who was coming.
The sound was faint, so faint that Emily almost convinced herself she imagined it. Another click, slower this time, careful. Emily sat up in bed, heart pounding. Lily slept beside her, curled tightly under the blanket. From the hallway came a low, controlled growl, Shadow's growl. Not loud, not wild, calculated. Emily grabbed her phone and quietly dialed 911, keeping the screen dim. Before she could speak, the line went dead. No signal. That alone sent a chill down her spine. Their apartment never lost service. Then the door opened. Not kicked, not forced. Unlocked. A shadow slipped inside, followed by another. Two men, both dressed in dark hoodies, gloves and masks. Professionals, silent. They moved with confidence, like they had done this before, maybe many times. Shadow stepped forward. The first intruder froze. "What the?" Shadow lunged, not recklessly, precisely. He slammed into the man's legs, knocking him off balance. The second intruder pulled out a flashlight, swinging it wildly. "Get the dog!" Shadow dodged, teeth snapping inches from the man's wrist. The hallway exploded with chaos, grunts, curses, the sound of a body hitting the wall. Emily locked Lily in the bedroom closet, whispering, "Do not come out, no matter what." She grabbed the heaviest thing she could find, a cast-iron pan, and stepped into the hallway just as Shadow clamped his jaws onto the first intruder's arm. The man screamed. The second intruder raised a crowbar. Before he could swing, Shadow released the first man and leapt again, straight at the crowbar. Metal clanged against teeth. Shadow yelped but didn't stop. He bit down on the man's thigh, dragging him to the floor. Sirens wailed in the distance, too late for comfort, too early for relief. The intruders fled, one limping, one bleeding, disappearing through the back alley. Shadow collapsed near the door. Blood stained the floor. Emily rushed to him, hands shaking. "Shadow, stay with me." At the emergency vet, the doctor worked fast. Stitches, painkillers, bandages. "He's lucky," the vet said. "Another inch and it would have been fatal." Emily nodded, but something else caught her attention. The vet scanned Shadow's microchip. Her expression changed. "This is strange," she muttered. "What?" Emily asked. "This dog was reported missing 3 years ago, from Chicago." Emily frowned. "We're in Oregon." The vet nodded. "And that's not the strangest part." She turned the screen. Shadow's original name flashed on it. K9 Unit, Case ID, Red Haven. Emily's stomach dropped. "A police dog?" she whispered. The vet lowered her voice. "A trained tracking and attack dog, retired under mysterious circumstances." Emily looked at Shadow, lying weak but alert, eyes still sharp. Shadow wasn't just protecting them. He was hunting something, and whoever broke into their home wasn't there by accident. Emily didn't sleep that night. Shadow lay on a blanket in the living room, stitched and medicated, but awake, always awake. His eyes followed every sound, every flicker of light outside the window. Not the behavior of a normal house pet, more like a soldier who never stood down. The next morning, Emily made a decision she couldn't undo. She called the number the vet had given her. Portland Police Department, K9 Records Division. After several transfers and long silences, a man finally spoke. His voice was calm but guarded. "This is Detective Mark Reynolds. You're calling about K9 Red Haven." Emily swallowed. "Yes, he's with me. He saved my daughter last night." There was a pause. Then, quietly, "Where did you find him?" "On Maple Street, 3 months ago." Another pause, longer this time. "That dog was never supposed to resurface," Reynolds said. An hour later, Reynolds sat at Emily's kitchen table, a thick manila folder between his hands. Lily watched from the hallway, clutching Shadow's blanket. Shadow himself lay between them, unmoving but listening. Reynolds opened the file. Red Haven wasn't just a police dog. He was part of a federal task force targeting a burglary ring that specialized in high-value homes across multiple states. Clean jobs, no witnesses, no mistakes. Emily felt a knot tighten in her chest. "The men who broke into my house? They match the same pattern," Reynolds said. "Entry without force, signal jammers, military precision." He flipped a page. 3 years ago, the task force was compromised. Evidence went missing. 2 officers resigned overnight. Red Haven's handler was killed in what they called a robbery gone wrong. Lily gasped softly. Reynolds continued. Red Haven attacked one of the suspects during a sting. The suspect vanished. So did the dog. Officially, Red Haven was listed as lost during transport. Shadow's ear twitched. Emily leaned forward. "So they came for him?" Reynolds nodded. "Or for what he remembers." Emily's blood ran cold. "Dogs remember?" Reynolds met her eyes. "This one does." That evening, Emily noticed something new.
Shadow stood near the hallway closet, the same spot he'd growled at weeks ago. He scratched at the wall, then barked once. Emily opened the closet. Nothing. Shadow pushed past her, nose to the baseboard. He pawed hard. Behind the wall, Emily found a loose panel. Inside, a small metal box, USB drives, cash, and a folded piece of paper. Reynolds read it carefully. Coordinates, dates, names, including his own. Reynolds stood up slowly. Emily, this isn't over. Outside, across the street, a black SUV sat with its engine running. Shadow growled. Low, warning. The hunters were back, and this time they weren't planning to run. The black SUV didn't move. It just sat there, engine humming softly, like a predator confident in its patience. Emily pulled the curtains closed, her hands trembling. Lily stood behind her, clutching Shadow's collar. Detective Reynolds pressed a finger to his earpiece. Nothing. No signal again. "They're blocking communications," he said, "same as last night." Shadow limped to the front window and stared through a small gap in the curtain. His growl deepened, not loud, but sharp, urgent. Then he did something unexpected. He sat. Perfect posture, eyes locked forward. Reynolds stiffened. "That's a command stance." Emily looked at him. "From who?" Reynolds didn't answer. The power went out. Total darkness. Then footsteps on gravel. Slow. Multiple. A voice carried through the door. Calm. Almost friendly. "Emily Carter? We don't want to scare your child. Open the door and this ends quietly." Lily started crying. Reynolds pulled his gun, whispering, "They know your name. This is organized." Shadow suddenly stood and walked toward the back door, the alley side. He nudged it with his nose, then looked back at Emily. "He wants us to go out?" Emily whispered. Reynolds shook his head. "That's suicide." Shadow barked once, sharp, commanding. Reynolds stared at the dog, realization dawning. He's not leading us away, he's leading them. Behind the apartment complex, the alley narrowed into a dead end, except for a construction site, fenced but unstable. Shadow moved fast despite his injuries, guiding them through darkness. The men followed, 3 of them now, one limping, one carrying a suppressed weapon. Shadow suddenly broke left, disappearing behind stacked lumber. Reynolds shouted, "Now!" He kicked over a scaffold. Metal crashed. One man screamed as he fell. Another tripped over loose wiring. The third raised his gun. Shadow launched from the shadows. He hit the man's arm mid-aim, jaws locking down. The gun fired once, into the air. Police sirens exploded from all directions. Floodlights ignited. The SUV screeched forward, but squad cars boxed it in. Within minutes, it was over. Handcuffs, shouts, orders. As officers dragged the suspects away, one of them laughed, blood in his teeth. "You think this is done?" he spat. "The evidence is already gone." Reynolds turned pale. "What evidence?" The man grinned. "The dog." Emily froze. An officer approached. "Ma'am, federal agents are requesting custody of the canine." Shadow stood between Emily and the officer, growling, not in fear, in refusal. Reynolds looked at Emily. "Once they take him, you'll never see him again." Lily dropped to her knees, hugging Shadow. "Please don't take him." The lead agent stepped forward. "This animal is classified federal property." Shadow's eyes met Emily's, waiting. One last choice, and whatever she decided, someone would pay the price.
The alley was silent, except for Lily's quiet sobs and the distant crackle of police radios. Floodlights washed everything in harsh white, making the moment feel unreal, like a courtroom without walls. The federal agent adjusted his jacket. "Ma'am, step aside." Emily didn't move. "He saved my child," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "He saved all of us." The agent sighed, as if he'd had this conversation before. And because of that, he's a liability. That dog carries evidence in his training, his memory, his behavior. He was designed to remember faces, patterns, routes. That makes him dangerous. Shadow stood perfectly still, blood dried on his fur, eyes calm. Reynolds stepped forward. With all due respect, you lost control of this operation 3 years ago. People died. You buried it. This family paid the price. The agent's jaw tightened. Careful, detective. Emily felt something shift inside her, fear turning into resolve. She knelt in front of Shadow, placing her forehead against his. I don't know what you were before, but I know who you are now. Shadow's tail wagged once. Then he did something no one expected. He turned away from Emily and walked straight to the agent. The agent smiled faintly. Good boy. But Shadow didn't stop. He walked past him, directly to the black SUV. Shadow sniffed the rear tire, then the bumper. Then he sat. Reynolds sucked in a breath. That's an alert. The agent spun around. That's impossible. The vehicle was cleared. Reynolds shouted, Search the SUV, now. Inside the hidden compartment, officers found everything. The original stolen evidence, drives, files, names, including internal agents, including orders to erase Red Haven's handler. The entire conspiracy, alive, breathing, undeniable. The agent backed away slowly. You didn't choose them, Emily whispered. You chose the truth. Weeks later, the case made national headlines. Task force corruption, federal indictments, silent resignations. And Shadow? Officially, Canine Red Haven was declared deceased in a sealed report. Unofficially, a dog named Shadow slept every night at the foot of Lily's bed. He no longer guarded doors. He no longer growled at shadows. Sometimes, though, he sat very still, listening to things no one else could hear. Not hunting, not waiting, just making sure the past never came back again.